Hello, everyone. This is Rex Red. I have a. Oh gosh, I forgot to do my. I forgot to put in the name of this. I do this, it's like almost every time. Okay, this is 10 people make when mixing a song. This is going to be 10 mistakes, and we need a 1 instead of... Okay, 10 mistakes people make when mixing a song. Copy, and we're going to put that here. Control V. This is a live editing session, okay, and we're going to change the image to change this. And where is the 10 mistakes image? My 10 mistakes that people make when mixing a song. Where is it? 10. Let's see if we can find that. Okay, 10. Okay, this would be... There it is. Okay, let's hope it works. Yes, it does. Save. Okay, 10 mistakes people make when mixing a song. Okay, so I have a list here, and you can just look at the list and then say, okay, I know what they are now. Or you can sit and listen to me kind of explain why they are mistakes. Because you will find on YouTube people telling you the exact opposite of some of these things. Quite a few of them, actually. Not all of them, okay? But you're going to find that some of these are slightly controversial. Okay, so mistake number 1, okay, is not soloing tracks. Now, people will say you don't solo tracks because that you just can't tell how that solo track is. It's gonna be mixed in a song. It doesn't matter what it sounds like alone. What matters is how it blends into the song, and that's all that matters. So people just say never solo a track, and there are people out there that actually say don't solo tracks. Just listen to the track with the rest of the music and blend it in, and you're all done. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why you solo tracks. Number 1 reason for me, okay, well, I've kind of changed my number 1 reason just recently, so there are 2 major reasons, okay? So I'll give you the changed reason, so that I've just recently kind of come up with, is that when you want to listen to your tracks solo, because every once in a while there'll be like little clicks and little taps and things, paper rattling in between tracks, just little noises that, especially with a vocal track, where somebody might clear their throat like that before they sing the next line, and somehow it gets into the song. So it's important to listen to the tracks and make sure that there just aren't clicks and pops and things in between. And sometimes it can happen during a vocal where they'll just accidentally touch the mic with their mouth when they're singing, and you won't notice it as, while you're tracking them, but it makes like a kind of sound in the recording, and it happens in their voice, so it's mixed in with their voice. And there are ways of removing pops and implosions and things like that within a sound. It's a complicated process, but there are ways to remove them out of the sound. You're not going to hear that if everything is all just blasting away on the track. And I know that people are saying, well, yeah, you listen to the track just, you should always listen to your tracks to make sure that they're recorded right and that they don't have some kind of crackling or something just terrible in the track that you can't really hear in the. Well, of course, people say, well, that's a no-brainer, but some people take it further and they say, well, yeah, you listen to your tracks to make sure they're recorded right, but then after that, you don't. And here's where number 2 comes in, and it's not just that. Okay, it's not just the vocal track and certain pops and things like that. That sometimes you record a guitar track and you say, well, you record it and you say, oh, that's fine. The guitar track is fine, and you put it in the song and you start mixing it and everything. And then when you go back and listen to it, you say, that guitar track, the guitar sounds boxy, it sounds clippy. It's a horrible. I had the mic in the wrong place, and it just the guitar or track. It's usually a guitar track that it just sounds like crap. And I know I can record and I know I can do a better job recording that track. And you're not going to really notice that if you just keep mixing it into the song without stopping and taking a listen and really examining that track. And then you put compression on it, you put all this other stuff, and it makes it worse. And you just really don't know it because because you got this rule that says never listen to the track soloed, never listen to solo, always listen to the mix. It's just that whole concept of never solo a track, always listen to the mix. And I'm going to give you some more examples of why you do that in particular, okay? So, but sometimes you just have to listen to a track and say, this track sounds like crap, and it needs to be redone. And so, and you're not going to know that really without just stopping and listening to that track and saying it's just terrible, okay? So then was my old number 1 reason for soloing tracks, is that when I mix a song, I set the song in my earbuds. Like I'll click and play the song here, play a little bit of this song. All right, is the first thing you do when you set the song to a listening volume. You set it to a volume that you're comfortable with, like listening to it. So, and you usually wait till the vocal comes in and say, oh, that's a little bit loud, and so turn it down a little bit until it's right at that level where you like to, and then you listen to the vocals that come in like, honey. Oh, and say, well, oh, it's a little bit too loud, and so you get it to this volume. Okay, and where you want to listen. Now, there are 2 listening volumes. There's the one listening volume where you're a connoisseur of music and you just love listening to music, and that listening volume is usually a little louder than I'm a mixer person and I'm mixing this song and I'm going to have to listen to this song for the next 6 hours over and over and over. Then there's that listening volume, and this is the listening volume we're talking about, is the listening volume that a mixer person listens to. And they don't listen to it like really, really quiet, but they listen to it just loud enough so that over 6 hours their ears won't get horribly fatigued and start ringing and just hurting, literally hurting from the sounds of the music being played over and over and over and over, okay? So we're talking about that listening volume. And when you've mixed hundreds of songs, and each song you've listened to for sometimes 8 hours straight, just mixing that song, you have a listening, it's like perfect pitch. You have a listening level that you listen to at, and you just set it and you know what that listening level is. Okay, so once you set that song to that listening level, then if you solo something, say, okay, well, let's listen to this. Actually, there's, all right, we're going to go here to, I just got to say, I'm loving you more every day. All right, so here's the vocal soloed. I've got to tell you. And so when I solo that vocal, okay, I say to my head, I say to my head and my ears and the physical part of my head, I say, you're going to be listening to this song for 3 to 5 minutes. How loud can you stand to hear this particular sound? If it's an organ in the background, or if it's a piano, or whatever, can I stand listening to this sound that loud for 3 minutes? You see, when I listen to it alone, this is normally my number one reason. Of course, it's to find errors in tracks, okay? That would be number one. But really, my number one reason for soloing a track is because I want to know. It's like if I'll play the bass guitar. Bass is a good instrument to do that with. You turn off all the other instruments and just listen to the bass and say, how loud can I stand that sound? And if you have everything else playing at the same time, you might turn that up louder than. But if you turn everything off and play that alone, that bass alone, there's a certain comfortable level that you say, that's just right. I like the way that feels. You turn it up and it's just too much. You turn it down and it's not there. It's just this right level for that sound. And when you turn all the music back on and you say, well, I can hardly hear it, that's okay. Because because if you turn that up, you're going to be listening to that song, even though it's collectively everything else is coming in and kind of drowning it out and everything. You're still listening to that louder than what's comfortable to your ears. And so it's something that your ears, that you learn, that it's like perfect pitch. It's like that ability to just sing a certain note and say, this is a C note or whatever. So it's that kind of thing where your ears learn to say, that's as loud as I want this in this song. I don't want it any louder. If it's louder, if I have to listen to that sound coming in for 3 minutes that loud, it's gonna, it doesn't matter if it gets drowned out. It's gonna be too much. And so that is why you solo a track. And you don't have to do it for every single track that's there, but there are certain tracks that you just, like a bass guitar, it's really kind of important that you solo that track and say, this is, I'm comfortable with this volume of that bass. And because the bass has so much power in it, it has all the bottom end, it has all the electrical energy of your song, all wrapped up in that boom, that big sound. And so, okay, now I think my chat is turned off. Let me turn it on. I'm sorry about that. Things just get all turned off. Top chat. Okay, I guess it's on. Oh, Angus, welcome. Thank you for checking in. So that is number one, okay, is don't listen to the YouTube videos that tell you never solo a track and don't solo tracks, okay? Soloing a track can give you a really, really good idea of how loud you want a certain sound that's kind of dominant and peering and strong in the song. And if you've mixed hundreds and hundreds of songs, then you get really good at just instantly saying, that's as loud as I want that sound in this song, because I don't want to hear that sound any louder than that for 5 minutes, okay, or 3 to 5 minutes, okay. So number 2 is people say, well, mix everything in the song first. Don't put any effects on the song, and mix everything first. Get everything in the ballpark where you kind of want them, and then start adding effects. That's wrong, okay? It's just wrong, okay? And the reason why, okay, is because you can't mix a song without effects. It's impossible to mix a song without using effects. And so because of that, because it's impossible, and believe me, it's impossible. It's impossible to mix a song without using effects. Okay? And the reason why is because the bass in the song, number 1, you have to cut the bass below a certain hertz. Okay, you have to cut it at a certain place below a certain, so that it doesn't put sound in your song that's so rumbly and that it destroys the song, because like I said, all the power's in the bass. So you have to chop the bass off at a certain point down below in this rumbly area. You have to cut that off, okay? So you have to have an EQ on that. And the bass, each time the bass hits, okay, it's going to hit like sometimes loud, and sometimes it's going to hit a lower note and a louder note and a little bit lower and a little bit higher. And so because there's so much power in that, you have to compress it. You have to compress that bass, just a little bit of compression, just to kind of even it out a little bit, okay? And so that's just the bass alone, okay? So the bass every song you ever make, you're going to unless the bass has already been compressed by somebody else, you're going to have to compress the bass, and you're going to have to EQ out the low end out of the bass. The same goes for the drums, okay? Each time that the bass drum hits, it's going to hit a little bit harder this time, and a little bit less that time, and a little bit more this time. And it's not just the low frequencies, it's all the other frequencies. They're all over the place, okay, with each drum beat. And so you have to cut the bass out of the bottom of the drum beat also. So you have to cut, or it won't fit in the song. And so these things you're going to have to do anyway. You're going to have to, and you always cut, usually you cut this kind of the same amount out of the bass, and you always cut the same amount out of it. So the bass drum has a little less bass than the bass, and so you know where to put these cuts. So it's something you could do without even kind of listening to it. You just know, but you can see it in the EQ where the bass is, and you know where to make these cuts. And so it's just kind of something you do by rote. You just cut those things out of the bass and the bass drum. Okay, then the same thing goes for and so that's your bass and your bass drum. They hold the whole bottom end of the song. Then there is the next big thing in your song is your vocal. Okay, now I would argue and say possibly it's like the piano or the thing that creates chords, whatever it is. It's whether if it's a guitar strumming or whatever the main rhythm of the song is. You could start there as well. to just get the chords EQ'd. And the thing is that with chords, compression isn't incredibly in vital importance, so you don't necessarily have to compress them, and sometimes you don't have to compress them at all. It all depends on just how all over the place they are, but usually they're not. They're usually pretty well played, but there's the whole gamut of the way chords can be done. So that's where I say, okay, you could leave the compression out on the chord initially when you're trying to this is when you're just at first trying to get your song in the ballpark. Always compress the bass, always compress the bass drum, okay? The snare drum isn't that important, but compression is kind of important on the snare drum also, because it's kind of down there and it's so loud, and each snare hit can be a different volume, and that's why it's important to possibly compress the snare drum, and you want to cut out some of the bass. So every track that you have in your song, you're going to cut a certain amount of bass out of. Every track, every single, even if you have like a little bell tinkling or something, you cut the bass out below a certain amount. And the same with the vocal, you cut the bass out below a certain amount. So you might as well just get all of those done and EQ and get them ready so they will mix, because without cutting the bass out, you can't mix them. They won't mix. They will not mix. Okay, so why try to balance something out that's going to be completely changed after that? All you're doing is tiring out your ears trying to mix something that isn't going to be the mix. And then your ears have to completely recalculate themselves to a real mix. So you always chop the bass out of the bass and the bass drum, and chop the bass out of all your tracks. You always compress your vocal. I've never made a song that I didn't compress the vocal. So you usually compress all your background vocals. So you can go through and just set up your effects before you even really kind of start listening to and start mixing. There are things that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to cut the bass out of, if you have like a music loop, you've got to cut the bass out of that. If it's got a bass in the loop, then you cut it out at below where you're hearing 20 hertz. You cut it out below that. So you have to add, you cannot mix a song without EQing and compressing most of the tracks. So you have to do you have to put the EQs on first. And it's like something I can kind of do in my sleep. I can just literally come through and say, I know I want to cut the out of my vocal. If there's a piano in the song, I know where I cut. I know roughly where that piano. Now I can come back in and dicker with that later, but I know roughly where I have to cut that piano out so it doesn't walk all over my bass and bass drum. I know where I cut those things, and you just get it in the ballpark so that everything kind of fits. Then it will fit together into, let's say, close to a perfect mix. Okay, then you can go in and dicker with your compressor on things, which you don't really usually have to do a lot if you know how to cut the bass out of things. Okay, so you have to. So that is why, like in Cakewalk, every track, before you even get to your volumes and setting your volumes in tracks, it has the compressor first and then the EQ first. You compress your track first and then you EQ it. And like I said, and every track gets EQ'd. every single track you cut the bass out of, every one of them. So every track is going to have an EQ on it, and it's pretty cut and dry where that EQ goes. Like for a piano part, you know where to cut it. For a pad, you know where to cut it. You don't want your pad walking all over your bass and bass drum, so you cut it out above where the bass and bass drum are. And almost every track you compress, and you only compress it a tiny bit. You don't need to compress. You don't compress anything unless it's like you're using it as an effect for like parallel drums or something like that. You always just very lightly compress, but you compress everything. And like I said, I've never made a song ever that I didn't compress my lead vocal. And there again, if you don't compress your lead vocal, you can't mix it into the song. It just doesn't work. It's just too unruly, and it's too thin sounding. It doesn't flatten out the frequencies and make it sound correct. So you just have to make the compressor have a fairly good attack to come in at the beginning, but not exactly. You don't want it to attack the transient, but you want the attack to come in right after the transient, and you want it to hold long enough until you take a breath and you go to sing, and then it can slowly come back. And then when you sing again, you want it to come back in and attack and hold until you stop singing and you take another breath. So it's always the same for your vocal. You always set the compressor the same way, with a very light, and I never go above 4-to-1 ratio. 4-to-1 is my standard. It doesn't even go down to a 2-to-1 ratio. So Cakewalk is always 4-to-1, and it's always perfect at 4-to-1. I never compress anything above a 4-to-1 ratio, and so that's, and I never go above -4 dB of compression. I never compress more than above this -4. Okay, so that's number 2, and that's number 2 and 3. That's mistakes people make, that they try to balance their songs and then they EQ, and then you don't do it that way. You can't do it. You can't mix the song without the tracks EQ'd and compressed for the most part. Like I said, some guitar rhythms are the only things that sometimes I'll turn the compressor off. I just won't compress a guitar rhythm, because sometimes it can make it sound flat and kind of clashy, and just the compressor just doesn't really work with some guitar rhythms and all, and some it does. So it works very nicely with some of them, but some of them are, especially acoustic guitar, just doesn't seem to compress well a lot. And if the guitar doesn't sound good with or without compression, then you've got to go and redo the track and get it to sound right. If the guitar track just sounds terrible, and that's there again, this comes back to the soloing thing. If a track doesn't sound good alone, all by itself, like to say, that sounds nice, it shouldn't be in a song, okay? Because all you're doing then is covering it up with all kinds of other stuff, okay? All of your tracks need to sound good alone, like this, and like the vocal here. Honey, I just got to say. See, that kind of thing? I'm not saying that sounds like amazing, but I'm just saying it doesn't sound harsh. It doesn't sound like eek, okay? It sounds, so every track has got to sound good alone. And if every track sounds good alone, then when you put them all together, they should sound good as well. Maybe sound fantastic. And see, and the thing is that maybe no particular track sounds like wow alone, because sometimes you have a track and all by itself it's like wow, but that's not a song. That's just, you know, a sound or whatever, and you can't really just make a song out of that. So, but some tracks have this wow factor, like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Okay. And if you have a sound like that in your song, then there's a good possibility your song's going to sound really pretty, especially sometimes an acoustic guitar that just sounds so pretty all by itself, or a piano that's just really delicately but beautiful with a nice, beautiful tone to it, that they can sound good all by themselves with a voice, okay? And so, but if a track doesn't sound, but not every track is going to sound like that. Some of them are just going to sound like, okay, that's a bass and that's a drum beat, you know. It's so it then what it takes is for you to artfully make everything kind of come out and peak up and say, hi, I'm a sound, I'm a sound, I'm a sound. And it's a cascading of sound that creates an experience and so everything just peaks up above and says their name for a moment, and then something else comes up, and that overall experience makes up for the fact that that maybe all the tracks alone aren't like wow, that only a few of them have that wow thing, okay? But as long as they don't sound like terrible, then you should be able, if a track sounds terrible, you really need to go back and redo it and make it, fix it until it's right. Okay, so that's another reason why you solo tracks, so that you listen to it and you say, you know, on second thought, this track just sounds like crap. And sometimes it takes listening to it several times before you realize it, okay? So number 4. So we got number 1 is soloing tracks, okay? So it's okay to solo tracks. Number 2, definitely compress and EQ most of your tracks. You EQ all of your tracks, but you can compress most of them before you even start mixing. You just go through and compress them. If you add a new track, you compress it, then you mix it in, okay? Compress and EQ, then mix it in. Okay, so, but some, like I said, some rhythm tracks don't need to be compressed, especially guitar. Now, sidechaining lead vocals. If you don't sidechain your lead vocals, your song is going to walk all over your voice, okay? And so your people are going to say, what the heck is he saying? What or she? I can't even hear the words. I can't hear what they're saying. What are they saying? What the music just steps all over the voice, and you know what? There are many songs that come out of big $1 million recording studios that have this problem. They just don't know how to sidechain a vocal. And so what you do is you make a copy of your vocal, and then you use that copy to like a cookie cutter to cut those frequencies out of the song so that your voice can nestle down into the song and not have what's called banding, and have things like bands peaking up and cutting and interfering with the place where your voice is. So you use your own voice to cut out the to cut those bands out of the song. So, and it does it dynamically. So it's like, if I'm going to sing this word, then it's going to cut a little bit out of that French horn. And if I sing over there in that pitch, it's going to cut a little bit out of the piano. And so it cuts certain frequencies out of certain instruments. Now, I'm not going to go into how I sidechain and all that, because I have that in several videos that I've already done, where the whole video was kind of about sidechaining. So if you want, you go back and look in my videos, and you'll find a video on how to sidechain. But you have to do that for your voice, okay? You have to sidechain your voice so that the song doesn't step all over your vocals, okay? Because they are supposed to, people are supposed to be able to hear what you're saying and all, and not just kind of imagine that they know what you're saying. So people read the song lyrics and they learn them, and then they know what you're saying, but before then they had no idea what you were saying. It's kind of just a bad way to make music, is to not have the vocal. And it's not like making the vocal louder than the music. It's making it fit in the music, but still be perceivable, okay? And that is a very, very, very difficult thing to accomplish. But it's something you have to learn as a mixing person, is to not let the music step all over the vocal. And then number 2 is it's to not only to sidechain your lead vocal, but you also have to sidechain the lead instrument, because in the middle of the song sometimes there's like a guitar solo or something like that, and you don't want that to be drowned out by the music either. And so you have to cut that lead instrument out of the song, so it nestles. You don't want it, like I said, up above the whole song, all right? Because then when you turn the song down, all you're going to hear is the lead. You're not going to hear the music with it. So you have to have the lead in the song, nestled into the song, but you have to cut the stuff out of the song that is banding with that instrument or with the vocal, okay? Now, number 5 is not using parallel effects. Now, this has to do with making the vocal too muddy and not present enough. And I used to be really against parallel effects. And do you know why I was against parallel effects? I'll tell you, it's the worst example of somebody that you could come up with. I was against using parallel effects because they were too complicated, okay? And it was like, okay, I've got now 3 vocal tracks of the same thing, and I've got to mix them all together, and it was too much for my brain to conceive and conceptualize at that period in my development and growth, okay? But you have to grow and rise above that and learn how to use parallel effects, so that, because there's serial effects and then there are parallel effects. And what serial effects is, you just add the reverb to your voice, and then you add the compressor to your voice, and you add the EQ to your voice, and you add all of these to your voice, okay? That's serial effects, okay? And that was easy for me to just, like, to compress my voice, then EQ my voice, then add some reverb to my voice, and you're all done, okay? So that's using serial effects. But parallel effects is where you copy your voice, and you say, okay, I'm going to copy my voice, and I'm going to use, and one copy is going to go to the reverb, and I'm going to make that reverb really, really, really strong on that copy. And then I'm going to copy it again, and I'm going to have it go to echo. And so I'm going to have like a delay, so it echoes. And I'm going to make that echo really, really strong. Oh, okay. My Echo Dot just scared the crap out of me. So because I said that word, all right, delay. We'll use delay instead of that word. Okay, so the parallel effects. Okay, so you copy your vocal, and then you send one of those copies to your reverb, and you send one of them to the delay, and you make the reverb really strong, and then you just mix a little bit of that reverb in with your vocal, with your main vocal, and you mix a little bit of that delay in with your main vocal. But what happens is your main vocal has these little flavors of being dry, of having no effects, and it has this, when you put echo on the whole thing, then all of it has echo. It's all then, and the reason why you use parallel effects is because when you have a dry sound, then it's right in your face. It's like hello, like this, and it's not like far away, like delay, like the E word, like echo, echo, echo kind of thing. It's not that kind of echo stop. It's not that kind of thing, because that delay or that reverb makes you sound like far away, and you don't want to sound far away. You need to be right up in where people, you need to be right close to people in your music. You need to be right there and have a presence, okay, in your music. And so if you put like reverb over your voice, it's going to make you seem like you're far away, like you're too far away from and there's not much you can do. But if you have a really strong echo on a copy of your voice, and you have a really strong delay, then you can blend those in just enough and let that really dry part stay present and up front and close to people, and then that little bit of echo that's really wet and strong you can mix it just gradually. And the same way with the delay and chorusing, the same thing. So you can copy your voice several times and have and bring and blend these other tracks in, and but still have that dry, really like bone dry or desert dry kind of sound in the very foreground. Okay, so that you are right there in that kind of very up close kind of sound. Okay, so that is another thing that people do wrong. I did it for years, and I just, and it made me sound kind of far away in my song. And having that little bit of like pure bone dry, kind of like chalk dry sound right up front in my song, and then having the echoes still there, but just having a part of the vocal has no effects on it all. And that's not something you can do with serial effects, because it goes on the whole sound. Okay, and so you add reverb and you turn it down, but it's still over the whole sound, and it's affecting the entire sound. So that's what you do with the parallel effects, is you blend the dry sound and the really, really wet sounds and the chorusing sounds, the delay sounds. You blend them all into the sound, and yeah, it's a little more effort to do that and to set it up so that you have those parallel effects, but it pays off. It pays off big time because you never have to worry about your voice not being right there, okay? And you never have to worry about that, okay? And that's number 5, okay? Now, these hopefully these things go a little faster than those ones, but not using external speakers and not using earbuds, okay? Those are two other, we're going to kind of handle them together, okay? Is that external speakers, I use external speakers because what I'll do is I'll mix the song in earbuds. And the thing is that most people who listen to your music are going to listen to it in earbuds. So why wouldn't you listen to it with the same medium that most of your fans are going to listen to it, is in earbuds. And when you use earbuds, and you can use speakers too. I'm not going to go into the war between earbuds and speakers and what's better and what's not. But the thing is that I would say the earbuds and headphones that cover your ears, that they're pretty similar. And so you can pick whatever you want of those two. But what we're talking about is earbuds and headphones versus external speakers. Okay? So we're talking about two things. And we're going to combine the earbuds and the headphones together because they're pretty much the same listening experience. They're up close. They're kind of right there in your ear kind of thing. And they provide a certain kind of depth and perception and the earbuds and the headphones are so similar that there's really not much difference between them. So we'll put them together, and you can decide whether if you want to use headphones or earbuds. But I don't think there's really a lot of difference between them both. Okay, so that is that experience, and then there is the external speakers, like having some monitor speakers. And now I have to go and check and make sure I turn my stove off. I'm smelling my dinner cooking. I don't think it's. I'll be right back. I think my neighbor is cooking the same thing I had for dinner. So I'm just smelling my dinner cooking all over again. So I turned the stove off. So, yes, okay. So now there are two things now. So we're going to talk about earbuds and headphones that actually sit over your ears as the same thing, okay? And how those star earbuds and headphones, they star in your mix because you can hear things that you can't hear in the speakers, in the external speakers. You can hear really deep fidelity. You can hear little instruments playing in the background that you can't hear unless you really turn up the speakers loud in the room. You're not going to hear that fidelity. And they also are really good at showing you like echo and reverb and things like that, how much echo and all of that you're using in a sound. So I do the majority of the mix with earbuds. I use earbuds, and I do have headphones, and some fairly nice headphones, but I just prefer the earbud experience for mixing because they're just they're lightweight. They don't sit over my ears and cause a problem. And so the thing is that a lot of people will just mix their song in earbuds and then it's done. And you can't do that. You can never, ever, ever, ever do that because there's one particular aspect of earbuds that you can't hear in your music. And that is the vocal to the music ratio. It's like, how much louder is the voice to the music? And the only way to tell that part is to listen to your song in external speakers. So what I will do, I have to drink some water. I'm just getting over a cold, so I don't want to go into a coughing attack. So what I will do is I'll mix the whole song in earbuds because I can hear all this delicate and intricate stuff in the song in the background, the depth. I can hear all this stuff in the song, and I will save setting my vocal, like how loud I want it in regard to the rest of the music, until I take the earbuds out, run the music through my speakers, and I'll set the vocal there. And so you have to use both. So number 6 and 7 is not using external speakers where they just use their headphones and then they say the song's done and they upload it to Spotify or wherever and the song's done. You have to listen to it through headphones and through external speakers to get the voice balanced right. Okay, and the other mistake would be not using earbuds or headphones and just using external monitors and then not knowing. And when you make that mistake is when you go and put earbuds on and you listen and you say, oh God, the drum is just so loud. I just didn't even notice it. Or that's when you hear like the subtle things in the music, or that pad is just so something you can't hear them in your monitor speakers. You can't hear that subtle balance of the instruments in the monitor speakers. You have to hear that. You have to listen to it in earbuds. So my advice is mix your song in earbuds, and then right before you go to publish it, do another listen through external speakers, and you're going to instantly notice it's like, oh my gosh, the vocal is just way loud. It's usually too loud. And so earbuds don't tell you how loud that perspective, because it'll sound perfect in earbuds. It'll say, oh, that vocal sounds just perfect. And you say, well, if I lower the vocal and I'm going to ruin the earbud mix. And usually it doesn't, because you're only lowering it a tiny bit. And if you had lowered it that much in the earbuds, you probably wouldn't have noticed the difference. So it's just that and I have many times just kind of got lazy. It's like, and said, I'm sure it's fine. The mix is fine. I don't need to listen to it in the monitor speakers. It sounds fine in my earbuds. And that's the way people, I say, well, that's the way people are going to hear it anyway. And so that's fine. Most people are going to listen to it through their earbuds in their phone, and so that's 90% of all people. That's how they listen to music, is through their earbuds in their phone. And so that, but my friends on the internet and in forums where I publish my music, and I say, well, you listen to this first and tell me what you think before I publish it, so I'll put my songs out and let these techie kind of people listen to my music and tell me and that's the first thing they're going to say. They definitely say, well, the vocals are a little too loud and they're too upfront, and And so and then I think, oh, I didn't listen to it in my monitor speakers. I just listened to it in my earbuds, and that was that. So that's another thing. So to not is to listen to your music in not only in earbuds but also in external speakers. Okay, so that's 6 and 7. Okay, 8 is not using mastering software. Okay, so I think most people do understand, anybody who knows what mastering is uses some kind of mastering software. And now I think a lot of people overmaster songs. They get way, way, way too intricate with mastering a song. And they put, EQs, they put reverb on their songs. They put all these kind of other things that they on their song. And they just go completely crazy. And maybe they have better hearing than I do. Maybe their ears are tuned to something that, but I find that I put all of that work into the mix. So I mix and master simultaneously, and so that in the end, all I have to put on is I'll use like Ozone 10, and I will just run Ozone 10 and let it learn and it puts an equalizer on its stabilizer and this impact thing and the imager and the dynamic and the maximizer. It puts all of that stuff automatically for me, and usually the only thing I ever have to really do is sometimes turn down the treble a little bit. Sometimes I find that it will crank the treble a little too much. But you have to use something to master your song, and the main thing, the reason why, is because you want your song to be at a certain level. And for a while I started I fell into that, the music wars, and the loudness wars, and and so you have to record at minus 14 dB or whatever, so that it's right for YouTube and all of that. And then I finally kind of said, I went back to the original loudness wars things and said, no, I'm going to mix my stuff for CD, and if I put it on some streaming service, they're going to turn it excuse me, I'm sorry. I am still suffering from this flu here. They're going to turn it down anyway. So let them process it and turn it down or do whatever they do with it. That's fine. But the worst thing to do is then to have to go and say, okay, now I'm going to sell it on CDs, and then have to turn it back up and go back and remix the whole song to get it up to, so that you're not resampling your song. So I record to CD level, and these mastering programs really help to set a brick wall up above your song, and to kind of set some of the stabilizers, and to just kind of make the song even and also. So I think that's another problem, is that people don't use just some basic mastering software. And Ozone 10, you can get a subscription for Ozone 10. You pay them about $30 a month, and you can just put this on your song, and it's going to pretty much balance out your song. So that's something I would look into if you're not using Ozone 10. There's also another alternative, and that is FabFilter. and this Pro L2, that just pretty much, again, sets the top so it gives it a brick wall so it can't go above a certain amount. And you can set it for CD at like to a certain level, and and then it kind of compresses your song and makes your song fit into the envelope of what would be expected for like a CD, putting it on a CD, or a WAV file kind of listening experience. And so it's in the ballpark when you go and play it on your MP3 player, or your phone. You don't have to crank it way up, or it's not so loud that it just blasts the heck out of, so that it's in the right place. Okay, so your mastering software is very important. Okay, so not using mastering software could be a big problem. Okay, now not checking for stereo width. Okay, and you have to do that for most of your tracks, and you have to go, and I use again, it comes with Ozone, and so it's if you pay for the Ozone subscription, you get the Ozone Imager, and it's here in this isotope. It's called the Ozone 10 Imager, and that is where you make sure that each track in your song, and you can put the imager almost on every single track. And this is again another thing you can do before you even start mixing your song, is to make sure that your songs have the right, what's called a correlation trace, that they don't cancel themselves out in mono, and that they're basically that the correlation wave, trace wave, stays above like 0, and so it won't theoretically cancel itself out. And you also want to run an imager also on your whole song, so that your song goes all the way to the left and right. You don't want your song, like the stereo width of your song, to all be kind of centered around the middle and have nothing out here. Okay, because it's that aural excitement that tickles your ears when things go out and around your head and everything. That's what makes a song kind of have nice dynamics and fullness and enjoyability, listening pleasure. It does kind of something chemically to your brain and all. And so that's why you want to run an imager, use imaging software, an imager. If you want to know about using this imager, I have other videos also on my channel where I almost every video that I make, I use the imager and all. So some videos I use it a lot, some of them I just use it a brief moment, but you'll get the idea from those videos. So, but that is something that some people just don't even pay attention to, but you have to, you can't. And what really brought this home to me one time is I was listening to a song one time, and one of my songs in mono, and I knew that there was this pad in it. There was this kind of a pad that I use a lot in a lot of my songs. And and it sits under the song, and it gives the song a certain character. And I was listening to it like in a mono in mono, and the pad was just gone. It just completely canceled itself out of the song. It wasn't even there at all. It was just, and it's like, why does this song sound so empty? And it was because that pad, that track, was out of phase. And so basically it was like dropping two stones in a pool, and the waves, the ripples come in and cancel, they bang into each other and cancel each other. And so basically that sound just completely disappeared in the music. So you can't have that. You can't have your sounds in your song disappearing, and that's why you have to look at the imager and make sure that it's not out of phase, because if it's out of phase, then they'll cancel each other, And so basically, you're going to notice something like that when you get famous and your songs are played in the supermarket, and you're walking around in the supermarket and you hear your song come on the radio, and you say, what happened? The Beatles used to have problems with that, where they would put vocals on one side or the other, and you wouldn't even hear the person singing because they're way over on the other side, on the other speaker. So it's just that you have to a song is has length and breadth and depth and height. It has width, and it has dimensions. Okay, and so you have to think about dimensions in a song. Okay, now so we're getting down to close. That was number 9, and now number 10 is not making mix buses. Mix buses are when you take like all of your drums and you put them into a mix bus so that you can just turn your drums all up and down with one slider. So all of the drums are in a mix bus, and I will make for every like if you have backup vocals, okay, then you can put all your backup vocals in a mix bus, and what you do is you get them all set so that the volume, so that if you turn them all up, there's not like one vocal that's too loud, so they're all blended together. So if you say, well, I'd like to hear a little more background vocals, if you turn them all up, that they all go up together because you've already mixed them together, so that and that's the same with your drums. When you turn them all up, you don't say, oh gosh, now the snare is too loud, because if the snare was too loud, then it was too loud when they were down too. So it's just so you get that mix right, and then you put them all into a bus, and then it's very easy to say, okay, I put like all of my music into one bus. So but then I have buses within that. And so that if I say, well, my voice is too loud, the music isn't loud enough, well, I don't have to turn my voice down. I can turn the music up with one slider. And so that's it helps to make uh, to to get your mix perfect by breaking certain things up into buses. Now, you don't have to go crazy with them. Like, you don't have to have a bass bus, and you don't have to have a bus for every different instrument in the song, because that kind of, then you end up with another level of complexity. So it's just putting certain similar things like background vocals together. And I usually put oohs and oohs together, the ahs together. So there's 3-part harmonies in the oohs and 3-part harmonies in the ahs. Okay, so mix buses, just break certain things, put them together and put them in buses, and then send them out to your music bus if they're music, and send them out to a vocal bus if they're vocals, and that kind of thing. So that's buses, and there's one more. I'm going to give you 11. I just told you, I said there would be 10 mistakes that people make when mixing songs. We're going to give you an extra tip. So, and this is not using background vocals, where they'll make a song and they never think of putting background vocals in. And and I'm not saying everybody, I'm just saying a lot of people just don't think about putting in background vocals. And years ago, I've always been a background vocal person. I've always put harmonies and certain things, but I did it in little bits, where one song would have harmonies, or one song would have oohs in it, and one song would have ahs in it, or one song would have dubs in it, where I would sing the same lines over. But in time, I realized that every song had to have oohs. Every song had to have ahs in it. Every song had to have dubs in it. Every song had to have harmonies in it. That it's an all of the above kind of thing. That and so and it means a lot of work. It means putting in a lot of work. But sometimes, like when I'll start where I the music will play a little bit, and then in comes the vocal, and it's like la da 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 da, and if I just do it like that and I don't add background vocals, then sometimes when my voice comes in, it's just like it's almost like a shocking kind of experience, because it's just like this kind of thing, like where the voice comes in and there it is, and it's like hello everyone, kind of voice comes in. But if you have this background vocals and right before you sing they go ooh, and then you sing like that, it adds it adds a credibility to your voice. It adds a softness to your voice. It adds a pillow for your voice to come in on, okay? So always think oohs and ahs and sometimes mms, and they've got to be three-part harmonies. Not you don't just go ooh, you got to go ooh, ooh, and you got to record them, and sometimes they've all got to move in their own pitch, and they move around depending on the melody of the kind of song and everything. But almost every song you can put these oohs and ahs into. Yes, almost every song you can put oohs and ahs in. You can put dubs in and it's just so many people they they and the thing is you don't just sing a song and mix your voice in. You have to add like echo layers. Remember those layers? You have to echo stop. You have to add reverb. You have to add EQ. You have to compress your voice. You have to do all of these things. And then you have to make your voice a little wide. And you have to give it some width so that it's not right straight down the center of the sound, that it has a little bit of character to it, and it's not just this this thing in the middle of the song. You have to widen the vocal, and you have to give the vocal some sweetness to it, some character. Sometimes it flanges and chorusing and and so the best way, and so adding dubs, like re-singing the song and blending those in, they add that width to it. They add that extra character and tone to your voice, to make it sound more interesting, to make it sound and sometimes you sing alone, and you sing a la da 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 alone, and then you have the dubs come in where it sounds like there's a bunch of you singing a certain line, and then you come back in alone and answer back and say and da 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 da, and then you come in the chorus, and it's got all of these these vocals, all layered harmonies and oohs and ahs going on in the background and all of that, and it just makes your voice sound better, and it's and the thing is that without that, all it is you're just alone singing, and that's it. You're just kind of like alone, and it doesn't give it and so so just for every song you should have oohs and ahs, and you should have echo, you should have dubs, and you should have harmonies singing in certain spots, not through the whole song. You don't want dubs through the whole song. You only want to put the dubs on certain lines, and then keep certain lines alone. You don't want the oohs and ahs going through the whole song. You only want it at certain parts. Okay? So, but but the thing is that the oohs and ahs, they help, like I said, sometimes bring in the vocal. And you might want them even during the solo part when the lead guitar is going on, the oohs coming in. So so that is something that a lot of music artists, a mistake they make. They just don't add enough of their voice into the song. They just add, they sing it and that's it, and they think that's it. And it's not. It's like vocals, it's because it's the difference between making a vocal track and doing vocal work. Okay? And vocal work means creating all kinds, and I'll show you now. This is the last part of this song, so here's some vocal work here, and we go into this, and you're gonna see this hasn't been edited yet. So, honey, I just got to say I'm loving you more every day. Now, the vocals are up, they're all messed up here. I've got to tell you what I hold so true. Now, these oohs have all got to go out to the oohs. Now, see, these haven't been edited yet, but this is, now the ahs have got to go out to the ah bus. I think this is part of the ahs. There's ahs, okay, and there's another ah right there. Excuse me again. And now I have dubs here. These are the dubs. They go out to the dub bus. And that's dubs here. And and then we have harmonies. Okay, so I've sung these harmonies. They're not easy to do. Okay, these are very, very difficult because it's not just singing the like la da 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 and the song's done. It's it's literally having to come in. Loving you, it's all. Loving you, it's all. And so, loving you. So we can come down here now that we have these all set here. I can turn them down because the song was mixed, and then I added all these tracks. So the harmonies here now. Harmonies, dubs, ahs, and the oohs. And okay, so we go. Loving you is all I need. Loving. Okay, I don't think I've got those harmonies all sent there. Where's the harmonies? Okay, that's sent to the dubs. Oops. Loving you is all I need. Okay. Loving you is all I need. In your love, I am free. You got the way to make me love you. You got the way. Woo. Loving you is all I need. Okay, so we can bring the lead vocal up now. Or turn the music down. This is why you have. Loving you is all I need. In your love, I am free. Now the vocals haven't been edited. None of the dubs have been edited. They're all just kind of all over the place. So okay, these are the oohs.
I just got to say, I'm loving you more every day. Got to tell you, honey.
So we got the ahs here.
Got to tell you what I hold so true. You mean everything in the world to me. You got the way to make me move. You got the way to make me groove. You got the way to hold me tight. You got the love all through the night. Loving you is all I need. In your love, I am free. You got the way to make me love you. You got the way. Woo.
Okay, so that's going to be pretty much it for now. So I hope this has been helpful. This is 10 mistakes people make when mixing songs. And I hope you have learned something from this. And just, it's important to know, to go through these and just think about the reasoning and the logic behind why I have brought these particular things up. They have been very helpful to me. Now, something like people not using mastering software. Mastering is an entire art form in itself. So these are really huge things. Setting up sidechains for the vocals and the solo instruments. That's a huge thing. It's something you kind of have to learn how to do. It's a big thing. And also not checking the stereo width of sounds. That's another big kind of thing. It's going through and setting the width of your, and once so basically you can go through, you solo your tracks so that you make sure that your tracks are fine and that they're roughly, and you compress them, you EQ them, you do all of this before you even start mixing. You just go through your track. What you just saw me doing, these dubs right here, okay? There's no way I can mix these dubs in yet until they're EQ'd, okay? So now when I come in here, you see that right in there? That
I'm loving you more every day.
See when they hit down in,
Got to tell you
hear that, right? See that? There's no way you can mix this without EQing that out, all right? So when I come in here, so you cut this out like this.
honey, I just got to say,
Now you can see how they just all of a sudden, the mud came away from them, and those you hear it in each ear. How the mud just came away. There's no way you can't get this balanced without EQing that out first. And the same goes for the harmonies here. Now we got we'll go to the oohs, okay? These are the oohs here, the oohs. Now this is the oohs. All right, now we go here and we take and we look at this.
honey,
See that right there? That's mud.
I just got to say,
You've got to get that mud out. And so you go in here like this and you take the mud out.
honey, I just got to say, I'm loving you more every day.
And so now now that that mud is out, then it will mix. So there's no point in balancing something that is like muddy, okay? You go in and you fix these tracks, you get them ready, then balance them so that your ears don't have to go through that it's like trying to figure out a black room, like taking and painting the wall black and saying, do you like my picture? And then slowly it starts to turn into a picture. It's best to, get the elements the way they're supposed to be instead of just starting with a black page. So, so you have to go through and it's like it. Wouldn't even like these. Okay, the ahs right here. I could say, okay, just mute everything. Okay. Now the ahs are about to start right here. Okay. I don't even need to listen to them. Here we go to the ahs. Okay, we haven't even EQ'd them. Here they are. Okay. I think I muted them. Well, I think I muted everything. Okay. So I think I can do this by turning this volume down. I think it'll still.
Got to tell you
Now, okay, you can't hear the ahs, but
what
I can do it without even.
You mean everything in the world.
See, I could EQ that without even listening to the ahs. Now I can bring the ahs up here.
Got to tell you what I hold so true. You mean everything in the world to me. You got the way to make me move. You got the way to make me groove. You got the way to hold me tight.
Okay, so, all right, that's going to do it for this video. So it's just, I hope you've learned something from this. If you know anybody who is struggling with their mixes, turn them on to this video, and you won't go wrong if you follow. And if you want in-depth knowledge about these particular processes, like the stereo width and mastering, look at my previous videos. I'm not selling any courses or anything. You can just go back on my YouTube channel and look at these videos, because all of these particular processes that I've talked about in this video, I go into depth whenever I make it. I'm going to go and start mixing this song, and I'm going to be using incorporating all of these particular things into mixing this song. So, all right, take care, and thanks again. And we're going to have a little bit of polka before we say goodbye for now. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you. And again, please like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, and let me know when in the comments if you found anything helpful here. If you disagree with what I say, you certainly have the right to do that. So thanks again for watching. Rex Red saying so long for now. This is CBB TV.